years, we've had a ball in tennis New Zealand, Australia, Canada, Israel. Some of the countries have a no tennis parent policy where the parent is not even allowed to get out of the car. They can drop off the kid, leave. They're not allowed out of the car. And the irony, which was tennis Israel 2 years ago, all the higher-ups in tennis Israel that had that policy were fired a year ago. All of them. So now they are educating tennis parents. And so we're gonna bang through a couple ways that you guys can educate them. Who has the clicker? Or does anyone know what button I press for this? Is there a little remote anywhere, or am I? All right, I'll go for it. All right. We all know Richard Williams had a plan with his 2 daughters, right? I remember when they first came to Big Wayne College, when they were about that age. The Bryan brothers, I think Wayne Bryan had his kids playing at age 6 in 10 and under events. And so parents of these high achievers definitely have, a plan, right? All right, this is Amir Sanagi. He's a parent of one of my kids. What I want you guys to be able to do is we're going to take a couple of minutes and identify different common parental personalities. And as you can see, their personality traits really will impact the child's attitude and outlook, happiness, motivation. And this is Mr. Sadeghi actually before the match. So gives you an idea how crazy some of them can be. Here's a common parental style y'all see is I said it again, y'all. The jabber-jaw. These are the kind of parents that come to the 1-hour lesson. They talk at the coach in front of their kid for 45 minutes about how horrible the kid is performing. Then you get about 5 or 10 minutes with the student. Then on the way out, you hear the parent saying, we really didn't get a lot out of that lesson. This coach is not good. But the solution when you get these jabber-jaws is take them aside and ask them to email you the night before, all their insights, as opposed to monopolizing the child's lesson. So you'll see a lot of jabber-jaws out there. The judger. we had a judger on the court a week ago when I'm trying to work on blocking the 3rd link of the kinetic chain to accelerate the 4th. But the dad had his hand through the fence yelling about the knee bend and the ball toss. And if you guys remember with sports psychology, with this whole idea about channel capacity, the human brain cannot solve 2 complicated tasks at once. So now this parent is absolutely sabotaging the lesson. Because when you're trying to fix blocking the 3rd link, now the dad's talking about ball tossing, knee bending. The child's so confused, they walk away, they get nothing out of the lesson. And who's to blame? It's the parent sometimes. So you'll see a lot of these judger types. The ex-athletes. Usually ex-athletes are the type of people that are still trying to promote what they did back in the 80s. So the same strokes, same mechanics. And I remember that at Dick Braden's we were teaching to catch the racket straight. They still want their kids doing all that. What's wrong with that? This is Ravi Patel. Ravi talks to his daughter about incident reflected angles off the racket face and opposing force vectors. And he's dropping, the left hand's falling. I'm going, Ravi, she's only 6 though. So.
She's a genius.
Yeah. Marlon did a good presentation about, remember, kangaroo and jumping like a frog? Just getting into the kid's world. Ravi doesn't get it. He's trying to get the kid into his world, right, of a rocket scientist. So, oh, by the way, with this whole rocket scientist, here's a weird analogy. A lot of parents think the best coach is the one that played 700 on the Pro Tour. Sometimes the best coach is not the astronaut, it's the rocket scientist that builds the rocket. Get it? You guys are all rocket scientists. And the ex-athlete is like more the astronaut. But sometimes those guys are not the best coaches. Sometimes they are. I just did a workout 4 or 5 days with Johan Creek. Remember him? He won 2 Australian Opens. He's one of the best coaches out there. And he was, a top player. So You don't get that too often. Drill sergeants. Drill sergeants are the kind of guys that usually don't have a lot of information, but they say do it right or else you got to do push-ups. Do it right because I said so. This fear-based motivation doesn't really work for too long. So you might see parents with that style. The Negatron. I had a Negatron coach. For me, it's a sad story, but finally the junior player made it into the higher levels of, it was the, I think it was the Midwest section. Anyway, finally got to the top levels and beat a top kid. So finally beat a rival he's never beaten forever. Right after the match, the father hands him a list of 12 things he's still doing wrong. Right after the match, here's what you're still doing wrong. And that's tough. That's a Negatron right there. All right, let's move on a little bit. We get that. Oh, this is the tennis. I'm not sure what happened to the slide, but this is top 20 tennis parent blunders. These are common blunders you're going to see almost every tennis parent make, and almost every tennis coach make. So see if you can relate to any of these things. You don't have to admit it, but sorry about you not being able to read the blue. And there was words up here. I'm not sure where they are.
Is that one of the louder words?
Yeah.
I don't know. But the first one is based on this whole brain type and body type. Remember we talked about brain typing a little bit last night. But there are two sides. There's nature and nurture. So right, nature is the genetic predisposition of the child, and nurture is how you as coaches and parents nurture the kid. So that's important, on nature and nurture. I want you guys really to consider that. We're going to go with it even though it's only halfway there. Hope I can remember it. All right, second one, encouraging dependency. I had a cheat sheet. Sorry. One of the things that's really important with this type of relationship is we want the child to be in charge. So I recommend doing the co-pilot or the autopilot game. So whenever you guys are having the parents take the kids to tournaments, try your best to have the child be the co-pilot. They're gonna, for example, they're gonna find the airport, right? They're gonna find parking. They're gonna find the gate. They're gonna get off the plane. They're gonna find baggage claim. We want the child to always be in charge. They get used to the idea of problem solving. You don't want the kid to be dependent of the coaches or the parents. So independent thinkers. Champions are independent thinkers. Got it? So the co-pilot game, try to get your parents to do that. You've all heard of the 10,000 hour rule, which of course is approximate. It's not exact. But if kids do want to play D1 level, they should be training, in my opinion, at least close to that 20 hours a week with all the different components. So does anybody have kids that are at that level already? They're training that many hours of on-court, off-court, 20 hours? No? Yeah? So
What age though, 20 hours a week?
well, we have kids that are 8, 9 years old, all the way up to, but it depends on just the growth development schedule of the kid, the maturity of the kid. A lot of these hours are not on-court hitting. They're maybe doing mental or emotional. Sometimes it's even just watching tennis on TV, watching the tennis channel and watch the player's footwork, or try to spot the style of player, even in pros. Maybe have your kids watch tennis on TV and spot a pattern, or spot secondary strokes. That's great training for younger kids too. So instead of just watching TV passively,
Even for 8-year-old, you think you can stay focused?
Yeah, I flew to, I was in Barcelona a few months back. There was an 8-year-old, just absolutely insanely incredible. She knew Rafa's second serve percentages. She knows more than I know about the game pretty much. Yeah, but it just depends on their growth development schedule. So, yeah, and you'll see it. You'll have some 17-year-olds that are so immature they forget their shoes for their lesson. And then you get 10-year-olds that are just absolutely brilliant. So don't have an age barrier, in my opinion. All right. This is asking your child to fix a flawed stroke when keeping them on the tournament trail. It's really important with parents. So let's go through. Let's just pretend you and your entourage, you have your hitting coaches, your assistant coaches, parents. You decide you want to fix little Kelly's serve. She has a forehand grip, whatever, going to continental grip. It takes 4 to 6 weeks to change. So let's go through the process. In the first week, she has her old bad flawed motor programs, 100%, 0 of the new. By the second week, it's about 30% new is showing up, but still 70% she has the old motor programs. By the third week, you're getting a little bit tighter. It's about 70% new, only 30% old. All right? Now by the fourth week, you're about 50-50. By the fifth week, it flips over. Now you're 70% new, 30% old. And then by the time you get to the 6th, 7th week, the old motor program is gone. But most players, and even parents, they can't stand it if little Kelly's neighbor might get ahead of her in the rankings. So they put her in a tournament after 3 weeks. And now little Kelly doesn't have the old motor program anymore. And she doesn't have the new one yet either. So she goes down in flames, and she goes back to the old one. And then guess who wasted all their money and time? The parents. They wasted 3 weeks because now the child went back to the old. So if you're going to change your motor program, it takes a while. And also, remember, kids are smart. Don't call it muscle memory anymore. There's no such thing as muscle memory. You don't store memory in your muscles. It's stored here. And then it's electrical signals that you send down through the nervous system into the muscles. So if you're still calling it muscle memory, kids are going to just shake their heads. And
is that assuming 20 hours a week of the training? Over the course of that 4 to 6 weeks?
For me, it depends on just how many hours of working on that topic, if it's serve or not, or whatever they're trying to fix.
It also depends on pressure. I mean, you can maybe change it in practice. It's going to be different to be able to do that in the tournament.
Yeah, true.
I mean, it takes even longer.
Yeah, slowly work your way into that dress rehearsal phase and things like that before you compete. That's good. All right, a couple more of these little blunders we'll go through. They're pretty common. Again, I apologize that you can't read where it says blunder up there, but I'm not sure. But we'll go for it. Refusing to play them down when it might pump them up. This is Vanya King. She played doubles with my daughter for years in California. She didn't have the best success in winning nationals, so she skipped the nationals. She went to Asia and played some real low-level ITFs. She won a few. The USTA gave her wild cards, and this is at age 17, I think she was. She went from not even winning nationals now to getting wild cards into big-level pro tournaments. She got 2 or 3 rounds in the US Open. By the end of the year, she's ranked top 50 in the world. So she went from top 20 in juniors to top 50 in the world because they played down. So sometimes that's important. If you have kids that can't maybe focus enough to win 5 or 6 sets in a row, maybe they're good for 1 or 2 sets, have them play down and try to see if they can win 4 or 5, 6 sets in a row. But playing down could be the path to pumping them up. Thinking perfect strokes are mandatory. We have coaches, but a lot of parents also that believe that a true lesson is only when you're feeding balls right to the kid and the kid's trying to do perfect form. And I got to tell you, for 30 years, I've never had a kid walk off a tournament match and say, if I would have had my follow-through higher, I would have won. They never say that. They go, I got up 5-2, I can't close out a match, I'm too nervous, I can't stay focused, I can't be pushers, I can't handle cheaters, which is why I kind of flipped. My whole first 15 years was working for Vic Brady and opening tennis colleges, and it was all stroke mechanics. But after a while, I kind of flipped it. Said, look, I'm not going to work on just fundamentals anymore. We're going to kind of go a little deeper. So, all right, does anybody know this guy right here? Who? His name is Chris Langman. Anybody heard that name even? It's the importance of life skills. This guy is, if you ever Google him, he's a pretty interesting guy. He's the smartest man in the United States, off the charts in every test possible, and he's feeding horses in Minnesota right now. He was a bartender before that, and then a bouncer. But he has no life skills. He doesn't have any emotional intelligence. He doesn't know how to relate to people. So one of the things that I really suggest with the parents is building relationships with all the coaches. You know, all your coaches are your friends. It's not that they're the enemy. Don't talk to them. Try not to be in that frame of mind. Ask your parents to remind the children to say thank you. And I think that was one of the big things earlier in the week, right? Saying thank you to all the tournament directors. And you guys are so good here. All the things we're talking about, you already talked about, pretty much. All right, ask the parents to be your information gathering mission. And this is a really important term. When you have your players play tournaments, it's not life or death, win or lose. The tournament is just an information gathering mission. That's all it is. And the parents are going to do things like chart matches for you, or hook up the video camera and videotape matches for you. So then, I recommend one of the best lessons of all is after every tournament, your players come back with a video of a match. You sit down with your laptop. You don't even hit one ball for the hour, but you assess all the reasons why the child is winning or losing. And I think I was just talking this morning to a guy in North Carolina, and was trying to help him because he's going through some of the same issues with a top player, Jenna Thompson. Do you know her name? Jenna?
Where is she?
Charlotte. Charlotte, where Johan Creek is.
Yeah.
Real quick, just some of the benefits of you guys sitting down and watching the video with the child. Strengths and weaknesses in stroke production, implementing strategies and tactics, the actual cause of the errors, how to dissect opponents, movement and spacing issues, emotional control, focus or lapse of concentration, between point rituals, changeover rituals. There's so many things that you can actually identify and help players with if you're actually sitting down and doing that. But how many parents do you think don't want to pay you for watching a video?
All of them.
Well, yeah. It's tough, right? To get them to understand that it's not about feeding another, bucket of balls. So, but with the college coaches, do you guys do video analysis a lot? With college? Some. And some of the colleges that I've been helping the college coaches, they're now putting video cameras in every single court. In every court, they do video analysis of matches. Remember, like in the old days, we would have video camera on the practice court and we'd shoot the form and just do fundamental video analysis. But I think that might be a big turning point if you can do that. All right, let's go a couple more of these. Overlooking organizational goal setting. This is one of my mental emotional workshops in California where we do like the evaluation packages and things like that. But take some time with your groups and sit down and try to get all these teams to get organized. And I think it's really important that the entourage is all together on the same page. Do you guys already do things like match logs? Do you try to have players fill out a match log after a match? Try to do that. It's pretty important that they can kind of digest what happened, and then also we want them to explain what's happening in matches. So if anybody needs match logs or any kind of journals, let me know. I can send them to you. Hey, the whole thing came up. This is a script that I use whenever I teach players. And see if this makes sense, because in California we all do teach a lot of little Hollywood actresses and actors and stuff. Bill's not kidding. I was in that Hoagie commercial. So let's go through this thing. It's really similar, but check it out. Receiving the script. Let's say the script is how to beat a moonball pusher. So they would get their script as an actress. We would sit down with the child and write down patterns to beat moonball pushers. Whether it's short angle patterns, moonball approach to swing volley patterns, maybe it's more of a how to hit a drop shot, bring him in, pass him, lob him. And by the way, all those patterns involve secondary strokes, not just primary strokes. So, in my opinion, if the player is a better moonball pusher than the moonball pushers, just pack them a big lunch and then come back in 4 hours. That's all you gotta do. But if they're not wired like that, you gotta have a plan. So the second thing that these Hollywood actresses and actors do is they do a table read, they sit down, and you're gonna spend time on the court just running the patterns over and over and over. So instead of rallying back and forth to each other, you're gonna work on short angle patterns, you're gonna work on serve patterns, get it, things like that instead. Moonball approach to swing volley patterns. Then they have to go on the court. As an actress will do a dress rehearsal, they have to play practice sets. Last thing is shooting the real show. And then of course our tennis players have to go on the real court in the tournament and run those exact patterns. A great saying you might want to use too with the parents and players is practice in the manner you're expected to perform. It's really big. Practice in the manner you're expected to perform. And now they have to go out and perform in the same manner that you practiced, right? They got to go out and run those patterns in the real match. Misunderstanding choking versus panicking. Let's cover that a little bit. I know it's tough to see with the light behind it. Over here it says choking is overthinking under stress, and panicking is shutting down and not thinking at all under stress. So let's cover that for a minute. I think it's really important. When your junior players are competing, we have to try to get into their world. So with their world, there's 3 TV channels in their brain. One is their optimal performance state of mind, when of course they're in the zone, they're flowing, everything is working well, they're not stressing, they're not overthinking. Okay? Now another TV channel they can shift over to, remember, is under-arousal or choking. Choking happens usually when they get a little bit bored. Now they start thinking about the future. Like, where the trophy's going to go in my room, what's my ranking going to, who do I play next, who's winning on court 9, that type of thing. The other side is panicking, right? It's over-arousal. And you see them walking fast and faster, and hitting bigger and bigger, that type of thing, not thinking at all. What we use is some really basic sports psychology. It's just triggers. So can you guys help me right now with what would be some triggers? There's verbal or physical, but what are some triggers to get the person to stop choking and under-arousal state, to get them back in their ideal performance state of mind? What would you say, what would be your self-talk or self-coaching? Can anybody throw out something? What do you think?
You can have like a, I'm sorry. No,
Yeah.
I was just saying you can have like a key word.
Yeah.
So like if you tend to go like really fast on your certain group or something, you can say like, smooth. Or like if you're nervous, like in a situation, like
Okay.
have a word that relaxes you.
Okay, good. So yeah, the triggers are to when you're under arousal and you're kind of we've all felt it. We've all been there. The guy in the back of the fence is saying you're choking, and you're like, yeah. Thanks. But you relax, stay loose, right? What was the other one? You had said a good one before. Did you?
Oh, that was me. I was talking about birth control. Just focusing on how you breathe.
Okay, yeah, to breathe.
And
Yeah.
when you do that, it tends to keep you in the moment as opposed to thinking about other things.
Yeah, that's good.
Just focusing on your breathing.
Yeah.
Watch the ball.
Okay, so watch the ball. That brings you back to the moment, right? Let's keep going. You're in a match. Go back to when you guys used to play. You're up 4-1, right? You see the finish line. You take your foot off the gas. You go, okay, just don't blow it. Don't blow it again, you idiot. And you're like, and you start slowing everything down, right? Your ball speed goes from 80-mile-an-hour groundies to 50. How can you get your ball speed back? How do you do it?
Swing smoothly.
Stay smooth.
Swing smoothly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right.
My mantra was to literally always move your feet, watch the ball.
All right.
Because that really focuses me in, and if I'm moving my feet, everything else is probably working, but the moment things go wrong, it always starts with my footwork, that slows down or something.
So that's how you would break down the tension.
Those are like my trigger points to bring me back into...
Very good. So good. So physical triggers might be when your players are choking is get them to move their feet more. They can do some kangaroo hops. They can run out to the court like Rafa. They can do a few really fast shadow swings to break down the muscle tension before they serve out the match, right? And if they're panicking, it's more of a slowdown phase, right? Your mantras are a little bit different when you're in over-arousal. Slow down, walk away, reboot, right? Calm it down. Some kids even, extreme. They lose 3 games in a row by freaking out and they take a bathroom break. Is that legal, taking a bathroom break? What do you think? It's legal, right? They're allowed to take a bathroom break.
As long as they go to the bathroom.
Do they what?
As long as they go to the bathroom.
Yeah.
we had a guy in the Mexican team, under 16.
Yeah.
He took a bathroom break.
He didn't even go near the
He
bathroom?
didn't go to the bathroom, but they disqualified him.
Ah.
World youth.
That's a rough lesson to learn.
That's a tough, that was a tough.
That's a tough loss.
Yeah. I don't know how they found out he didn't.
Yeah. What did they follow him, huh?
Yeah, they did.
Another blunder with a lot of coaches too is it says up here, you just can't see it because you guys don't have the skill to see it. I'm not seeing that stumbling blocks or stepping stones. We've had numerous players get injured, and a typical story is this. Here's a Molly Scott story. A gal that you guys probably, California people remember. She fell, she sprained her left wrist. She gives me a call. She goes, my doctor said I can't play for 6 to 8 weeks. I go, that's unfortunate, but we can still work on your slice backhand, your drop shots, your other actions with her serve. Anyway, bottom line was, instead of her stopping, like most kids would stop, we worked on her off-court speed, agility, her fitness a little bit, her slices, and 2 months later, she beats the #2 girl at the Easter Bowl with drop shots. She had to bring the girl in. It's very windy. If you guys have kids that play Easter Bowl, it's usually pretty windy out there. But if she didn't sprain her left wrist, she never would have developed her slice skills. So if you have players that get injured and the parents say, my kid is injured, they can't play, you can still find things for them to do, whether it's off court. So don't give up on the player. Try to keep them active, okay? All right, let's go back into it. I spoke about this a little bit the other day, but it's the school methodology. I recommend that you're not the kind of coach that only teaches primary strokes all day, every day. Try to teach the whole package, the whole skill set. And we've been through that enough, so. All right, under 14, quality of work versus quantity of work. This is my neighbor. This guy, interesting enough, he does these races like once a month. Something happens with his back tires and they blow out. And every day he polishes the fenders for like 4 or 5 hours a day. Is that ever going to help the tires? No. But how many times do we have kids in tennis that you get the call, they go, my kid lost to another stupid moonball pusher. And then they come back, they go on the court, and they only want to rally hard back and forth. They want to sweep the real issue under the rug and not think about it anymore. And it's silly. If you have a kid that can't beat a moonball pusher, forget about rallying hard back and forth. Work on just how to beat a moonball pusher. Just like my neighbor probably should work on the tire issue. But no. All right, last few. Oh, this is my stepkid Sarah. I told her I'd put her in this. Neglecting the rehearsal of changeover rituals and between point rituals. Try to have your kids play some sets where they don't even worry about winning or losing at all, but they only focus on maybe taking the proper 20, 25 seconds, in between points. And then even during the sit-down changeovers, I recommend them doing a little exercise of think 2 games back and 2 games forward. So when they sit down, they go, okay, did I hold serve? Why or why not? Did I break? Why or why not? Then they can still do their external rituals like towel off and get a drink. But before they run out there again, it might be smart for them to just review. How am I going to hold serve? How am I going to break serve? And practice that, because if you don't practice between point rituals and changeover rituals, you really don't know how to use them properly. Does anybody here have players that are on fire for a while? Like they can play the first set, but then by the second set, their level really drops. These are players that don't understand the value of taking a breath, like between point rituals. And a little 6-year-old gave me a good analogy. She goes, it's like when you see a dolphin swim. They come up and they take a breath, they go under, they come up and they take a breath. And they can go for really long ways. She goes, but the ones that go under and never take a breath, now they get tired and they can't go anymore. I said, well, 6-year-old. Pretty good analogy. All right. As we are developing our players, I know parents don't like this, but you want your players to rehearse playing against different styles of people, but also rehearse being different styles of people. So most parents say things like, if you make my little Joey play somebody lower, we're going to the other academy down the street. I only want my kid playing the better people. But that's what you want to explain to them, that they need to be able to play against different styles of people. And you should have days, or even like silly little tiebreaker tournament events where they have to only be a certain style for that day. So they understand the skill sets of being more than one style. The next blunder is being outcome-oriented versus performance-oriented. What do we hear most parents say when the kid gets back in the car after a tournament of practice?
Did you win?
Yeah, did you win, right? But the worst thing in the world they could say, instead of things like, that you guys all know, is how did you perform? Did you hit your performance goals? But if the parents are if they're performance-oriented, you guys are on the right path. If the parents are outcome-oriented, you're in trouble. It's going to be a tough, Steve. This is being oblivious to periodization. Does everybody know that term? Why did you explain it? It's knowing when to train things, not just what. A good example of this little quick story of periodization is Jimmy Fernandez in California finally got good enough to play the clay court super nationals. And so the week or so before it, his dad calls me and goes, we're going to go to St. Louis and play the warm-up clay court tournament to get him used to clay. So, it's a great good luck, and they go off. And now the dad wants to go one step further. So the dad books the kid a lesson with the local pro the day before. The local pro changed Jimmy's service grip. So the night before the match. So Jimmy loses first and first. So upset, can't serve, loses first and first in the Super Nationals. The sad thing though, it's just bad periodization, right? So some moms buy their daughter a brand new outfit to wear at the tournament. The kid's not used to it. That's bad periodization. And even I did a blunder once too. That was really bad. I took the kids to the all-you-can-eat Indian buffet the night before. Yeah. All right. This is the consistent skills training versus flexible skills training. A lot of parents want to see consistent skills. Sports like gymnastics or figure skating over here, they don't create anything when they perform. They only recreate the exact routine in the exact order, right? And it's kind of like when a coach says, okay, you guys get in line, I'm going to give you a forehand approach, forehand volley, backhand volley, overhand. There's a consistent skills training. It never happens like that in a match. Don't train like that. Do flexible skills training. Soccer, basketball, tennis, we're in this world, flexible skills. So in my opinion, it's really big to kind of flip it. So a good example would be, as coaches, we have a half-hour lesson. And we do 10 minutes of forehands, 10 minutes of backhands. Then we bring the balls over, the kid serves 10 minutes, and you leave. Don't do that. Instead, have the kid hit a kick serve out wide, followed by 2 ground strokes to the opposite corner. And then go down the tee. Do the serve pattern to the tee. Then go to the do side and go serve pattern 1, 2. So now you're doing the same strokes, but in the exact manner that you're expected to perform. Get it? That's big. Keep all your drills in the exact manner you're expected to perform. And It's true, the studies now, this year, show that the average point in pros, I think guys was like 3.8 hits, girls might be like 4.5 or something. There's not a lot of long rallies. So work a ton on serving and returning. And what I usually see when I go, even to the different countries, is they get an hour, the kids rally and groove back and forth for 45 minutes. They serve for 5, pick up balls. I say go the opposite. Serve and return for 40 minutes, and then they can just groove a little bit at the end. And you'll see they'll win more matches if they can flip that. All right, last one is encouraging one-set wonders. A lot of kids, when you send them out to play sets or they call their friends, they chat for 10 minutes, 15 minutes, they play one set and they go home. Try to get your kids to start at 2-2 and they can close out 3 sets. Or start every game at 30 all. Every game starts at 30 all, they can play 3 sets, they can get to the tough part of the match quicker. They can rehearse closing out sets more, right? All right. You okay with that? Anybody want to stand up, do some squats or anything? Let's go to the next one. Does anybody know this person? Who is it? Yeah. I didn't tell you something off the camera. This is a funny story. So I took my brother to the Australian Open a couple of... This is, her name is Dragana. What kind of message is she sending before her daughter's match? What's the body language? Yeah. Facial expressions? Relaxed? Is she freaked out? Is she stressed? Calm. She's sending very powerful messages without even saying a word. We're in charge, right? No problem. I had a call from the Kalowskis, and you guys get this all the time. My daughter is so good in practice. She's the best girl at the academy. She's 14, but she beats every 18-year-old in the academy, but she can't win a match. She gets into a real tournament. She freaks out. She walks on the court so freaked, she can't win. We don't understand what's going on. So we looked kind of deep into it. So let me introduce you to this first gal. This is Martha. Martha Kalowski is the mom. All right, so on the way to the tournament Saturday morning, Martha wakes up tightly wound, doesn't like the choice of outfits, upset about Kelly's chewing at breakfast, mad about directions, every red light. Martha's freaking out even before the match begins. So, guess who goes down in flames that match? Kelly. Guess who's on the blame? Kelly. So we go, okay, this is bad. Martha probably shouldn't be taking the daughter to the tournament, shouldn't understand how to morph a kid into athletic royalty and how to get a kid ready for matches. We better have the dad take her on Sunday. This is Mark. Here's Mark's conversation all the way. Okay, Kelly, she's ranked 98 spots ahead of us. Our ranking will skyrocket to the top 20 if you don't blow it. Remember, she cheats and pushes us to focus. It's the most important match by far. We just spent $2,000 to get you here. If you blow it, we're pulling the button. So this is what he's saying to his poor kid. Guess who loses that now? Poor Kelly. Kelly gets all the blame. But for us, it's really exactly right. Because we spend a lot of time preparing these kids spiritually, mentally, emotionally to compete. And then you get parents that are uneducated and they can blow it in a second. Every good thing you said, gone. And the kid can't even walk and shoot down. They're so free. Try to have even a quick half-hour session once a month where you try to help the parents understand that it's their role to de-stress the child. These stressed out kids, let's go through, what does stress do to an athlete? Increases muscle contractions, decreases fluid moment, impairs judgment, reduces problem-solving skills. We want parents to really be good about just de-stressing. That's a big key. We'll just pick a couple of these. The pre-match job description. whenever you can, try to keep your players away from other players and parents at the higher levels, because they'll try to sabotage your players, even other parents. I remember a parent at a girls' clay court was following one of my players to the court, saying, "Don't worry if you lose to Lauren Albanese." You remember that? She's the #1 female ball terrier. Now she's going to be a pro for sure. Don't worry if you lose to her. It's not going to be a bad loss. This other dad's telling the kid that. And luckily the kid had her preset protocols in place already, and she won the match. But other parents will try to sabotage so your kids don't get above their kids. And it gets a little bit brutal sometimes. So there's match time job descriptions.
Frank, can I touch on that real quick?
Yeah.
Just one more thing, we'll hear this a lot. Other players will tell your player, that player's got a weak backhand, or that player's got a weak forehand. And if your player's strength is different than the player who's telling them that, it's gonna be a bad matchup.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So them listening to their peers' advice only works if their peers plays exactly the same way they play.
Yeah.
And kids do that all the time to each other.
Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah, be careful with that type of stuff. It gets a little bit hairy. We talked about this a second ago, but the reasons why I think it's so important that you guys videotape and you have parents videotape and you sit down and do videotaping, sessions. Plus, it's not a bad thing for you guys to get off the court a little bit and get out of the sun. So, does anybody have skin cancer issues yet?
Yeah.
No, yeah. I just had about 8 things cut off. All right. Post-match, there's a ton of job descriptions. I went crazy deep in this new Tennis Parent Bible with all of the different job descriptions for tennis parents. So luckily, if we do this right in this country, the parents will know their job. They won't be jumping on top of your job. They'll help organize the whole entourage. There'll be a great synergy. So. A good example of late bloomers, early bloomers. When I taught Sam when he was 14, I had to stand on a chair to teach him how to hit kick serves. He was already too tall. But I remember him at 14 crying on the tennis court because he didn't want to go to the Super Nationals. He didn't want to play. And he couldn't get Van Surfer Dude tennis shoes that fit him. His feet were too big already. He's like, it's not fair. I'm 6'4" and I'm 14. But he went through all this mental, emotional stuff, and once he really bought into it, I think he's like 10 years now in his work. All right, last thing we're going to cover. This is why I think you should educate. It's coming up perfect now, baby. All right. True or false, though? Uneducated parents will shift a lot, allegiances from academy to academy, coach to coach. Yeah, right? You want these guys to be a part of your team. You want them to be supportive of your efforts. They're going to stick with your program longer. Like we saw with the Kalowskis, they can kind of confuse the child. There definitely are long scripts of tennis parent job descriptions that I feel that you guys should help educate, because nobody else is educating tennis parents, so it's kind of your job to do that. If anybody wants a copy of this PowerPoint, and they can take it and they can use it at their club, you're welcome to use it. Has anybody ever had the blame put on them or your program's coaches for their child's losses yet? Yeah. I was just talking to Johan this morning, and he has big issues with a couple of parents. They're losing some, and they're totally blaming the coach. And they've only been there for like 4 weeks, and they're already blaming them. Anyway, all right. it definitely will grow your business. You know that whole evaluation package we did yesterday? If you go through that with your junior players and the parents, they're going to feel like they're part of the team. And when they're part of the team, they're going to spend more time, energy, and money with you. That's important. You need the time. You need a lot of, they need a lot of components to be developed, and you're the guys that can develop all these things. So it's not just primary strokes. There's a whole, onslaught.
Go back one slide. Can you go back one slide?
I think so. Yes. Yeah. Anyway, so we're gonna try to get this new book out to all the USPTA pros. Probably by, I think the release date with all the Amazons and everything is the 17th of December for the new book. And if you guys have great insights, I recommend whether you write a book or do YouTubes or whatever, go for it. Because you don't even realize how easy it is now to get everywhere in the world. And I had no idea, it was 5 years ago now that this first one came out. I had no idea that I would be all over the world doing this stuff. I was just still teaching at, remember Sherwood Country Club? So anyway, give it a go. Anybody have any questions over this parental education stuff?
Do you do meetings with the parents, or how do you approach this?
I do. Usually when I go to an academy or a club, or even an ITF federation, we work with the coaches, and then we work with the parents and players also.
No, but I'm talking about your own program.
My personal program?
Yeah, your personal program. I mean, how would you approach it? Would you do parents meetings every 2 months?
I do tennis parent workshops, well, all over the country, tennis parent workshops. And so, for example, we might come to a town, come to a city, and we'd get 4 or 5 like-minded coaches with their academies. They'd bring all their parents to this one day. It's called Tennis Parent Summit. And so we kind of help share with all this information. The other half of the time, though, I'm just coaching players still. I do the evaluation package, and we're on the court grinding it out.
My question was more towards your players' parents.
Yeah.
Your own, the ones that you coach.
That I work with?
So when somebody comes to the academy, new kid.
Yeah.
Well,
I work with parents all day, every day. Yeah.
You don't do like special days where there's a meeting with the parents that come about the program, or you do it individually, or
I do it more individually now because I travel so much now. So I'm not home enough to say I'm going to be home in 2 weeks.
Okay.
I don't know where I'm going to be in 2 weeks most of the time. So anyway, anybody else have anything on that?
Is that something you'd recommend, though, to set a monthly meeting for kids in a junior program?
Well, especially if you have like your own club, your own facility, and you're there all the time. Yeah, I definitely would have one night a month and have set topics. And if you want, I can send you the information. I can send you an older book or a newer book, and you can just pick topics out of it. And I think it's important, though, that you bring in ex-players and ex-parents that have already gone through the process. Have them sit in front like a panel discussion, and they can really share with all the newbies. And I found in every country, the parents that already went through the wars, most are very happy to come up and share and help. And so it's tougher to get the junior players, though, that play to come up and help, but the parents will do it for sure. Lane, what's the score of that game?
Florida State's up 7-0.
I know all these. You guys are all watching the game.
I'm off right now.
Oh. All right. Look, we're hanging out all day. We're here all night. So come and grab me. All right.
Thank you.
Great.